One penstroke split millions of lives in half. A British lawyer drew it in just 5 weeks. He had never visited the land he was dividing. The line cut through villages, rivers, and farms. Families woke up in a country they did not choose. So why did one line cause such enormous chaos? The answer lies in geography and rushed decisions. It triggered the largest migration in human history. 2 nations were born from a single inked boundary, and the scars from that line still shape the world. The story begins in South Asia in 1947. British India stretched from the Himalayas to tropical coasts. For nearly 2 centuries, Britain ruled this vast region. By 1947, it was exhausted and ready to leave. But leaving turned out to be much harder than ruling. The land held many faiths and languages. Hindus and Muslims had lived side by side for centuries. They shared markets, neighborhoods, and rivers. Political leaders feared a future without British power. They worried minorities would lose influence in one country. So pressure grew for 2 separate independent nations. One would have a Hindu majority population. The other would have a Muslim majority population. The plan sounded simple on paper. But people do not live in neat geographic clusters. Communities were mixed across cities, villages, and provinces. No clean border could separate them without huge disruption. Yet leaders agreed independence would come fast. Britain wanted out quickly and pushed the schedule. That single decision shaped everything that followed. Enter Cyril Radcliffe, a British lawyer from London. He had never set foot in India before. He knew little about its geography or culture, yet he was handed the most important map. His task was to draw the new border. He was given roughly 5 weeks to do it. He worked with outdated maps and incomplete census data. The summer heat in Delhi was punishing. He rarely left his office during the process. 2 regions had to be split, not one. Punjab sat in the west of the subcontinent. Bengal sat far to the east near the bay. Both were rich, populous, and religiously mixed. Both faced the same hurried pen. Punjab sits on a fertile plain fed by 5 rivers. Its wheat fields fed much of the subcontinent. Dividing it meant cutting through farmland and canals. Every line broke something useful. Bengal lies near the Bay of Bengal. It is shaped by the mighty Ganges Delta. Jute, rice, and trade flowed through Calcutta. Splitting it meant slicing through a river network. Radcliffe had to draw both lines in weeks. He balanced populations, rivers, and railway routes. But geography refused to cooperate with his pen. Rivers do not care about religion. Roads were built to connect markets, not divide nations. Every choice he made created new problems. He cut canals away from the fields they watered. He separated towns from their nearest stations. He split districts where neighbors shared one well. The map became a patchwork of broken systems. The border was finalized but kept secret for days. Independence celebrations happened before anyone knew the line. People danced without knowing which country they lived in. The suspense was unbearable across the region. When the map was finally published, panic exploded. Millions discovered they were on the wrong side. Entire villages had to choose, stay or flee. The decision had to be made in days. What followed became the largest migration ever recorded. Around 15 million people moved within months. They walked, rode trains, and crossed rivers on foot. The roads filled with carts and cattle. Hindus and Sikhs streamed east toward New India. Muslims streamed west toward New Pakistan. The migration crossed deserts, rivers, and mountain edges. It exhausted everything in its path. Violence broke out along the migration routes. Estimates suggest up to 1 million lives were lost. Entire trains arrived at stations carrying no survivors. The line had become a wound across the land. This is where the geography of the line mattered. Punjab suffered worst because its border was sharpest. Communities there were deeply intermixed and densely packed. The plain offered nowhere to hide. Bengal saw migration too, but over more years. Its delta geography made movement slower. Scattered waterways spread the crisis across time. The violence unfolded differently in the east. The line also created strange geographic puzzles. Pakistan was born as 2 wings separated by India. West Pakistan and East Pakistan sat far apart, about 1,600 kilometers of foreign land between them. Imagine running a country split by another nation. No shared land border or shared rivers. Only a shared religion held them loosely together. Geography would eventually pull them apart. In 1971, East Pakistan broke away. It became the new nation of Bangladesh. The map of South Asia changed once again. One line had now produced 3 countries. Would you ever live where a single line rewrites your nationality overnight? Tell me below. These stories feel distant until you imagine your own street. Picture your block being cut in half. Imagine a stranger deciding which side you belong to. That is what millions actually lived through. Now, let us return to the line itself. Its consequences did not end in 1947. They keep shaping the region even today. Geography never lets go of its grip. Take the rivers of Punjab as one example. The Indus and its tributaries flow into Pakistan. Pakistan depends on this water for most of its farming. The line could not separate the rivers. In 1960, the 2 nations signed a water treaty. It divided the rivers between them carefully. It remains one of the most important water deals. It quietly holds the region together. Without that treaty, the border would mean more conflict. Geography forced cooperation where politics preferred distance. Water is stronger than any line on paper. Rivers always have the final word. Then there is Kashmir in the far north. Radcliffe did not draw this border. Its fate was left to local rulers and wars. The result is still disputed today. Kashmir sits in the high Himalayas. It controls headwaters, mountain passes, and trade routes. Both countries claim it and tensions continue. Mountains rarely make peaceful borders. Whoever holds Kashmir controls rivers and high ground. That is why nobody wants to let go. Geography explains the conflict better than slogans. Strategic land never stops mattering. Look further east at the Bangladesh border with India. It is one of the most complex boundaries. It even contained pockets of land inside other pockets. These were called enclaves. People living in enclaves had no clear country. They could not vote or get passports. In 2015, both nations finally swapped these pockets. Decades of confusion were quietly resolved. This is what happens when borders ignore geography. The land takes revenge through endless paperwork. Every river bend becomes a diplomatic problem. Every village becomes a negotiation. Now zoom back out to the wider picture. The Radcliffe Line stretches about 3,300 kilometers. It crosses deserts, plains, marshes, and mountains. Each landscape was treated the same. Along most of it, fences and floodlights now stand. From space, the border glows orange at night. It is one of the few human borders visible from orbit, a bright scar across the subcontinent. That glowing line reveals something about geography. Borders drawn quickly need heavy enforcement later. The land does not separate where the map says. Reality pushes back against ink. Compare this with borders shaped by geography itself. The Andes between Chile and Argentina need few fences. The Rio Grande between Mexico and the U.S. follows a river. These borders match the landscape. They feel stable because the Earth agrees with them. The Radcliffe Line cuts across the landscape. Every storm, flood, and harvest tests its logic. Geography never stops auditing the map. Economically, the line reshaped trade for generations. Before 1947, goods flowed across the subcontinent. Cotton, wheat, jute, and tea moved by rail. The whole region functioned as one economy. After partition, those flows were cut overnight. Factories lost their raw materials from across the border. Farmers lost their nearest markets in nearby cities. Entire economies had to rebuild from scratch. Calcutta lost much of its jute supply from Bengal. Lahore lost easy connections to Delhi. Two neighboring cities became distant capitals. Trade became friction instead of flow. Even today, trade between India and Pakistan is tiny. Two neighbors barely exchange goods. The line still acts like an economic wall. Geography of opportunity remains blocked. Culture, though, refuses to obey borders cleanly. Punjabi is spoken on both sides of the line. Bengali is shared across the eastern boundary. Language laughs at the mapmaker. Music, food, and poetry cross the boundary quietly. Families separated in 1947 sometimes reunite later. the heart ignores the borders of the state, geography of feeling has its own rules. So what is the deeper lesson of the single line? Borders are not just politics on paper. They are geography, economy, and human life compressed. They carry consequences for generations. When a border respects the land, it tends to last. When it ignores rivers and roads, it bleeds. The Radcliffe Line did both at once. It gave nations identity and lasting wounds. It granted two countries their independence in days, but it also created scars still aching today. Every map of South Asia carries that story. Every generation inherits the line. Look at the subcontinent today from high above. 3 nations now share what was one India. Each one shaped by that hurried pen stroke. Each one living inside its consequences. India, Pakistan, and Bangladesh carry the legacy. Their armies and treaties trace back to 1947. A 5-week decision still echoes across billions of lives. Geography keeps the record honest. This is why geography matters more than headlines. A line on a map is never just a line. It is rivers redirected and fields split. It is families divided across generations. The next time you see a sharp border on a globe, pause. Ask what the land looked like before. Ask who lived there and what they lost. The truth is always older than the map. Because behind every clean line is a messy story, and behind every nation is a geography first. The map remembers what politics tries to forget. The land outlives every empire that draws it. If this story moved you, drop a thought below. I read your comments and they guide what we explore. Tell me which border you want to unpack next. Your curiosity shapes the journey ahead. And for more on how the world really works, subscribe and ring the bell. New stories of geography arrive weekly. Because once you understand the lines, you understand the world,